I'm sitting here at the Element factory in Winnsboro, South Carolina, waiting to be able to move forward. There's a long line of drivers here waiting to get loaded. And I was thinking that while I'm sitting here waiting, it'd be a good time to maybe break down for everyone how I personally calculate my costs to operate the truck. And it's really pretty basic. You know what your fixed expenses are. You know what your insurance costs you every month. You know what your maintenance runs every month. But for those of you who may be new to it, it's really depending on you and how well you want to take care of your truck. But some people do as little as 10% of each load to be set aside for maintenance. Some do as much as 15%. So average it out and call it 12 or 12 and a half. If you take your 3 months fuel average and add that to your fixed monthly expense for your insurance, your truck, then you need to factor in how much do you want to pay yourself. Do you want to pay yourself on average $15 an hour? Do you want to pay yourself on average 30% of the load? It could be any way that you feel comfortable putting a value on your time for providing this service. And that's what you're doing, is you're spending your time providing a service for others, whether it be directly to a manufacturer, whether it be to a company like Amazon that uses small independent carriers, or whether you're running with multiple brokers. But you need to determine for you how much you want to pay yourself in salary, and then also include your health insurance and all of your expenses relating to operating your truck and being able to pay yourself a living wage, and still be able, if that's the way you want to go, you still be able to set aside a small profit for your company, so you can allow that to build and hopefully buy more trucks. So if you take your monthly mileage and you add it all together, then you average that out, right? It'll tell you what your average per month miles were, whether you're averaging 3 months, 6 months, or 24 months. But you add up all those months of miles, and then you average it out over X period of time, and then you take all of your fuel costs for that period of time, and that'll give you, granted you're looking in the rear because fuel prices change, but it gives you something, a marker to start with. Take that fuel cost and add it to your other fixed costs and what you're going to pay yourself, and then that should give you a good idea of what you need to be charging per mile for deadhead. Loaded miles, I typically take the miles that they show for a given load. If I'm interested in a load, and let's say they show 319 miles is your loaded miles, I typically will go and add about 10% to that. So in that case, it'd be 31.9 or 32 miles. If it's 319 miles, add 10% to it. And then that's what I use for my total loaded miles, because there's miles that they factor in from point A to point B. And if they're, like a lot of them, they'll tell you they're using Rand McNally miles, or they might be using miles off of Google. But many of them, I have learned over time, like to use air miles, and they're kind of screwing the drivers out of some miles, because it's easy to go from A to B the way the crow flies, but when you're having to wind around on roads and you have stop and go, and you need to add a little extra to it, and that'll get you fairly close on your loaded miles. I have an average span that I use for my pricing, based on what my costs are and what I choose to pay myself. Your costs are not going to be the same as my costs exactly. You may have a newer truck, you may have an older truck. You may dog your truck and run it till the wheels come off before you do any maintenance on it, and you might be very diligent about doing maintenance. So each person is going to be different. But I wanted to take some time and try to give you some guidance on how to calculate what it costs you to run your truck, and how I personally figure mine. I hope this helps. I know that there's been a number of people that have asked questions through social media about, well, how do you calculate this? How do you figure that? So that gives you a good rule of thumb. You may, in doing this, you may exclude things that I don't. You may include things that I don't. You may find an easier way to do it. But I want everyone to be out here and be safe, be profitable. We're not doing this for our health. We definitely don't need the practice. Now, if you like this video, please click that subscribe button right down there, and click the little bell over next to it, and it will alert you every time we add a new video. If you like us, give us a thumbs up too. I'd appreciate it. But please ask any questions, send any comments. I'll be happy to answer anything that I can. Thanks, and safe driving.